Terrence Malick, one of the only people in the industry that some people refer to as one of the best directors alive, while other people refer to him as someone who would be excellent at directing National Geographic animal documentaries. To the Wonder is a film that I actually saw at TIFF last September. I have been holding off on reviewing it until it was closer to the release date. I've had thoughts about the film. I wrote a review for it that's on moviedex.com. Terrence Malick was of course not at the screening in TIFF. He is very, very private. He does not like to have pictures taken of him. He's very reclusive. He makes his films and then he kind of goes into an igloo somewhere and hides, and you don't really hear much about him. But Rachel McAdams was at the TIFF premiere, which was pretty cool. And it was pretty cool to see the film in the Princess of Wales Theater, which does seat 2,000 people. It's very difficult to describe the plot of this film, very similar to the way it was hard to describe Tree of Life. In this film, there is a couple who's having hardships in their marriages. The husband perhaps has a brief fling with another woman. There's also a priest, played by Javier Bardem, who's contemplating his faith. Essentially, the film is a string of montages where the characters are being very thoughtful, they're thinking a lot, they're looking at beautiful scenery. A lot of the dialogue is whispered or told as if it is a poem. Now, I like Tree of Life. I didn't flat out love it or anything, but I appreciated the film. It was visually well told, it had good performances, and despite the fact that certain story elements of it were extremely confusing to me, I still found the film to be pretty ambitious, and I liked it for that. To the Wonder, however, clearly suffered from quite a bit of production issues, especially post-production. You can really tell that this film has been chopped and cut and edited and changed. Entire actors have been removed from the movie. Certain story elements have been jumbled and resorted. It's painfully obvious as you watch this film that the director and the editor and the stars all had a completely different idea of the type of film they were making. See, Ben Affleck is doing virtually no press for this film. Do you know why? Because, no joke, the man has about 5 lines in the entire movie. And I mean that. And most of them are whispered and barely audible at all because the music or someone else's dialogue is overlapping his. Rarely ever does the poor man even get a close-up at all. He's generally regarded as a prop. The film seems to be recentered around Olga's character, his wife. It is very clear that the film perhaps was told through a much more conventional narrative, at least conventional in a Terrence Malick way, where it's definitely unconventional, but I mean that it was clear as they set out to make this film that there were story elements that were conceivable as a beginning, a middle, and an end. This film is not like that at all, and where sometimes that's very impressive and extremely refreshing to see a film that is different from others, with this film, I found that it really hurt the movie because not only was I in a constant state of confusion in regards to where the characters were, what timeline this was, it's very clear that throughout the film, Terrence Malick as a filmmaker was extremely distracted and very unclear about how to tell this story, which shows in the way that it was edited in post because so many things were changed and entire actors and story elements completely removed. There are shots in this film where Ben Affleck might be walking in his backyard having a conversation with someone, and maybe a flock of birds happens to fly over him, and the camera will literally just pan up and follow the birds off into the woods for no discernible reason other than, look, there's some birds! He's an extremely impressive visual director, and this film looks gorgeous. It really does. And it sounds great too. But from a story perspective, there is literally nothing to latch onto in this movie. Most of the film is Olga's character just dancing around in fields. And I'm not exaggerating. Count how many times she goes out in the field and twirls around and dances and you see the sunset behind her. You can tell that actors like Javier Bardem and Ben Affleck were virtually wasted, and even Rachel McAdams has maybe like 10 minutes in the entire film, and I guarantee that she filmed more than that. I'm kind of upset about the way Malick treats his actors, and I don't really like that. You sign on for a movie, you're interested in this script, and you're giving your all to a performance, and when it gets to the editing bay, even though it is technically his movie, the way he cuts out actors without their consent is incredibly rude to me. He did this to Adrian Brody, who was essentially the main character of The Thin Red Line, and he did not find out that he was almost entirely removed from that film until he was at the premiere of The Thin Red Line, and a reporter asked him how he felt about the fact that he was removed from the movie. And this is something that Malick does to his actors, and I really don't approve of it. And I find that it really harmed this movie, and for that reason, I'm not going to recommend seeing To the Wonder. Despite the fact that it's a beautiful looking movie, it sounds great, and the performances that are there seem like they are an actor who is trying to reach for something, but it's very clear that that actor was invested in a story that Terrence Malick did not care about, because eventually he removed it from the film. And so the performances and the story that is there don't mesh at all. I'm gonna give To the Wonder a C. It's a great looking film and Terrence Malick fans will appreciate that, but the performers are all wasted and the story, there's nothing there to latch onto. So if you see the movie, I'd like to know what you think. Thanks a lot for watching, guys, and as always, if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.